to the Kent Lapp Podcast.
Phillip Nappi, welcome to the podcast.
Oh, thank you very much for having me.
So our mutual friend, Christopher Thomas, said to tell you that you're one of his favorite people and he loves you like a brother, and said to see the smile on his face when you hear that. What, is there a backstory here we should know about?
With my other business that we had, which we touched on, Peter Nappi, I said I've made 3 good friends out of that. And Chris Thomas was one of them.
Really?
Yeah, he just came in the store when we first opened, and he wanted to know what was going on, of course. And then he bought a pair of boots, which made me happy. And then, and I told him my life story, and he told me his, and we've been tight ever since. So
really? So you did not know Christopher pre-Peter Nappi?
No, did not.
Ah, interesting. I thought you actually knew him for quite some time.
No.
How would you describe Christopher Thomas? I think of Christopher Thomas as a man of Franklin, Tennessee, taking over the world, starting right there, basically. Yeah. What is he not into these days?
A man of many ideas. He needs, and he knows he's got, which I do too, focus problems.
Yes. I have massive focus problems.
Yeah.
Kidding me?
Yes, but he's amazing. His whole family, they've been a huge blessing to us.
Yeah, great people. Made South. That's kind of, if someone wants to learn more about what Christopher Thomas is going on, check out Made South. He did say, though, to ask you about Hank. Who is Hank? Is there a story with Hank? What's going on with Hank?
Hank is my grandson.
Oh, okay.
And a lot of people say, how do you have a grandson? It's that Italian skin color, but he'll be 3 in August.
Okay. And I wonder why did he maybe not know that or did he think I didn't know you were a grandpa? I wonder why.
Maybe. That's probably what it was.
Oh, congratulations.
Yeah,
you don't look old enough to have a grandson.
Yeah, thank you.
Vavia, what do you got going?
Well, Vavia,
it looks pretty fascinating.
It's a pretty cool thing. It's been a good segue away from Peter Nappi. I started off in the waste business. I moved here in '99. I bought
where?
From Atlanta.
Okay.
I was there for a year working with a company called NextLink or XO Communications and sales, and I knew I was going to be an entrepreneur. My father was, and I had a few kind of failed businesses as I was growing up, just getting my feet wet, and I had a friend that was in the business in Ohio, where I'm originally from. And
in the trash business?
Yeah,
okay.
he did something a little bit different in it, but I had talked to him enough and picked his brain. I thought I understood a little bit about it, but I was looking for something to do. Had some stock options from the company I was working with, and I was looking into Tennessean, in the classifieds. Nobody looks in the classifieds. And I was thinking about getting in the restaurant business because my father was, and right underneath it said roll-off company for sale. 2 trucks, a 1980 model, 1984 model, and 42 dumpsters. I called. The lady answered the phone, said it's my husband and my son's business. Husband wants to retire. Son doesn't want it. You can meet him at the yard at 5 o'clock. I went there, and after talking about 20 minutes, I told him I wanted to buy it.
Really? This is in 1999?
1999.
At this point, are you familiar with the trash business?
Vaguely.
Okay. There's a lot of money to be made in the trash business.
It's a challenging business, but there's good opportunity there.
But this coming to Nashville in 1999, buying this company, that was your first hands-on experience, and that was your first trash business. Okay.
Yes. I told the man, Earl Crick, he was a very nice, interesting guy, and I told him, I said, I want to buy it. And he said, but you don't know anything about trash business. And I was like, I don't care, I'll learn. Well, you don't know anything about trucks either. And I said, I don't care, I'll learn. And he said, I want you to go home and think about this for 2 solid weeks. And if you still want to buy it in 2 weeks, I'll sell it to you. It was $75,000.
Oh, wow.
Every other day I'd call him because I just knew he was going to, because I did enough homework pretty quickly that I knew it was basically an asset purchase.
Okay, you're right.
The company was doing about $180,000 a year. Top line revenue, so very small.
Oh, wow.
But I didn't have any overhead. So about every other day I'd call him, I still want it. He said, I told you 2 weeks. 2 weeks was up. I said, I still want it. And he said, all right, you got 2 days, get the money. So, so we did the deal. He took me around in his pickup truck, showed me all 42 dumpsters, so I put my eyes on him, make sure he wasn't ripping me off.
Yeah, and just to clarify, would these be dumpsters that would be like what we used to have with building sheds? Like we had a shop, and of course you'd always have a dumpster there, and they'd come pick it up, or was it more like a contractor needs a dumpster for 2 days.
It could be both.
Both. Oh, okay.
Yeah, it could be industrial,
Okay.
like you were talking about at a factory, production facility where they're open tops.
Right.
And it's the big, tandem axle trucks that brings those. But mostly you see them on construction sites.
Okay. So when these 42 dumpsters that the company you bought, there was a little bit of both?
They were all open tops. Yeah.
Okay, gotcha.
They all were.
Okay.
He took me, I didn't know how to drive the truck. I took my written test. And
Did you need a CDL?
Yeah, I needed a CDL. I didn't even have a CDL. So I take the written test. He takes me around and shows me how to drive the truck for a day and a half. He didn't have a passenger seat. He had a milk crate turned upside down with the hand tarp inside of it. So I rode there for a day and a half. He showed me how to drive the truck, and he said, "Here you go. Have fun."
Yeah.
And I couldn't take my driving test the driving test because it involved a pre-trip inspection. Well, this truck never would have passed a pre-trip inspection. So I had to wait 3 weeks to get a friend of mine to fly into town to go rent a Penske CDL truck so I could go take it. So if I'd had an accident in those first 3 weeks, it never would have got started.
Because you were technically supposed to have a CDO and you didn't.
Did not.
Well, there's a business lesson in and of itself, isn't it?
Yeah. But, I loved construction. I loved being around it. It was just something I loved, heavy equipment. I'd worked in construction. I had friends who grew up in construction companies. And so I wanted to have some piece of that. And this afforded me that. And we grew the business pretty quickly just by providing service. We tell our drivers, you got 2 things to be focused on. Be safe and take care of the customer. And if they call, you jump. And that's what we did. And Hardaway Construction at the time was one of the biggest in Nashville commercial guys. And Hal Hardaway, he's passed away now. But he called me in his office. Don't know why. It was a God thing. And just said, I'm going to give you all my business. And so that was the first big jump we got. The 9/11 happened, got some, trouble. Market was messed up. People weren't building. Rates were getting cut. But we didn't have any overhead. So we kind of managed and maintained. And then about 2003, I started talking to my brother-in-law, who was married to my half-sister. Was older, been successful, and talking about the idea. And about that same time, I started recycling the material because the landfills really control you. They own you. And the landfills are owned by mostly Waste Management, Republic, those guys. Their sole purpose is to get waste into that landfill. That's how they make money. So when you have an independent guy, they don't really care about you as much.
Because they would rather have that portion of the business themselves. So you're saying Waste Management, the company, they own landfills.
Yes.
And then they're also one of the bigger ones out there that's providing dumpster and trash pickup as well.
Yeah, they're the biggest in North America.
Okay, I didn't know that part about the trash business. So then you're going to come in, you're an independent, you're going to handle the pickup and delivery to their landfill, pay them to dump the trash there. I see. Okay.
Yeah. And so they would always mess with the rates, jacking the rates up, and then they're also competing with you in the market. So then they're lowering the price to the customer and just squeezing you, left and right. So we started recycling the material. I joined an association. It was the Construction Materials Recycling Association of America. Just started going and traveling to the board members' facilities, mostly Miami, South Florida, California, up Northeast. Places where disposal costs are a lot more expensive, and just started learning, ended up getting on the board, started recycling in Nashville, got my brother-in-law involved. That was about 2003. We bought 28 acres in Antioch, and we developed a construction demolition recycling facility. We had about 50 team members. We were running 3 shifts, 5 days a week. We ended up getting that down to 1 10-hour shift per day. But we had rock crushers, wood grinders, screens. We were getting all the metal out, some cardboard. We were processing about 500,000 cubic yards of construction debris on an annual basis. So we had about 20 trucks, 800,000 dumpsters, and we were
800. Wait a minute.
About 800.
800 to 1,000 dumpsters.
Yeah.
Okay. Now, when you say the recycling, so you break it all down. What gets done with it at that point? Do you sell it to someone?
Yeah, that's the trouble in this market. Everybody asks me, why can't we recycle? Because there's no markets in this in this area. You got to have a market, and what really drives a lot of that market is if disposal costs are high. Just, in the South, there's land is plentiful, so landfill costs are lower.
I see.
So it's less expensive to put it in a hole than it is to sort it, process it, and get it to
Sure.
a user.
Yeah. Not so great for the long play, but
No.
cheaper.
Yeah.
That makes sense.
Mm-hmm.
Where I grew up, there was a huge landfill 30 minutes away, like huge, like it was like a mountain of, and man, you drive by that and they would always have these fires going, like these rods that stick down in there, burn a fire. I don't know.
They're burning off the butane.
Is that so it doesn't all just blow up one day like a...
Yeah, they,
Okay.
and I think it's butane.
But they smelled awful.
Yeah. And, Waste Management does some great things. They just opened up like $30 million plant that's pulling the gas off the landfill, fueling all the trucks, and then piping the rest of it to be used elsewhere.
Oh, interesting.
So there's some good things. But,
yeah, I interrupted there. Coming back to you're doing the recycling. You had 800 to 1,000 dumpsters. Mm-hmm. Dang, that's a lot.
It was a lot. It was a great operation. Had a great team. We ended up selling that to Waste Management in 2008, right before everything crashed, and and now I'm back in the waste business. Vavia is the name of it. Mm-hmm. It is a franchise. We are the franchisor. Mm-hmm. So we're about a year and a half in. We own the Nashville franchise, and Vavia in Italian means it goes away.
Yeah, I love that.
And we really wanted to approach it from a technology angle.
Okay.
So we like to say we're a technology-based waste removal company.
Okay.
The tech plays and technology is always being developed and improved, but we have built a proprietary application that is first in the industry. So it provides 3 different points: back office support for dispatching, credit card processing, CRM. It has then a driver portal, so the driver sees their routes and where they're going to go, and they can close off tickets, et cetera. Those 2 things are common. But the third piece is the Contractors App. So contractor can actually order service, get service for new job sites, see their activity. But the cool thing about it is that when the driver has been assigned to that job, he clicks it, I accept this. That job site contact receives 2 texts. One that says, hey, your driver is 7.5 miles away. He will be there in 22 minutes. Another one is a link to a GPS map so he can actually track his progress.
I see. Yep.
Many, many, many benefits from that. One, it's safety. Driver's not on the phone calling the contractor. Communication's key. So, so it cuts down that. They don't have to call him. The job site contact knows that he's coming. 2, driver efficiency is very important in our business. So if that contractor knows he's coming, he can get trucks out of the way. If there's a pallet of shingles blocking the dumpster, because he wants them in and out as quickly as possible as well. So, and then it just makes the job flow a lot easier as well. So it's huge, but we are a franchisor of Vavia. We own the Nashville one. 16 months into it, things are going amazing. I mean, we're already up to 7 trucks and 250 dumpsters. We signed one franchise group out of Birmingham, so our really focus right now is the Southeast, primarily Alabama, Tennessee, Arkansas, and Kentucky. A group, former Caterpillar dealer, owner, and executive, backs 2 of his family members and another bright gentleman, and they took the whole state basically.
Oh wow!
So they launched in Birmingham. They're offering service in Tuscaloosa right now, and they'll move into Auburn, Opelika, Columbus, Georgia market, which is a nice MSA, Montgomery, and Huntsville. So that's kind of their rollout plan. The whole COVID thing, it kind of put a little bit of hamper on franchise development. And also we're trying to figure out, we want to have a proof of concept so we can show, we got financials now to say this is what you can do in year 1, this is what you can do here. Margins are good, but we're looking to grow. We have prospects in Northwest Arkansas, which is an amazing market, which you don't really realize with Bentonville and Fayetteville. So Walmart's there, Tyson Foods is there, JB Hunt. So there's a lot of money there. Knoxville is a great market for us. Louisville. Those are kind of the top 3 that we want to get into. And
those are the ones that you're looking at and would like to get into next. I see.
Yeah. And so what we do provide is, we've got 50 years plus experience on our executive team in the waste business. We've got the technology. And in those 4 states, then we'll go in and we've pre-negotiated disposal contracts for them. So you know what you're going to pay. And it's very difficult for a new company to go into a market and going to open up and negotiate a disposal contract when they have no volume. They don't have any volume. So it's pretty advantageous. Now we got somebody in Savannah, Hilton Head that's looking at that area, but kind of the growth then would be the Carolinas and Georgia, Florida, Panhandle, Mississippi, Louisiana, Texas, Oklahoma, maybe Arizona, New Mexico, Colorado. But we're definitely we are poised and we're ready to go to start
Fascinating.
Awarding franchises, as they say. We're not selling them; we're awarding them,
Okay,
and then supporting them.
Right.
Yeah.
So you have the landfills have enough of common ownership that it would be reasonable for a landfill in Savannah to be owned by the same company that might own a landfill in Nashville, and that would be likely Waste Management or another company like that.
Exactly.
And then in the waste business, is basically the money made because you are charging to pick up trash at a less rate than you're paying to dispose of it, and that's how you make your money? Or is there peripheral other kind of product verticals where you're making making money other ways?
It's a pretty blocking and tackling business. So yes, it's you have a margin and that's what you make. So it's a lot of my partners and I mean, when you look at a business that you'll say that's not sexy, like my old business, Peter Nappi, that was a sexy business. But when you look at a business like this, it's not sexy. And then you can put sophistication, professionalism, processes, and technology with it. Yep. You're poised for success.
No, I totally agree, man. I love that. I grew up in a very not sexy business. We built storage sheds. Yeah. That's about as non-sexy as it gets.
Everybody needs one.
But they do. You're right. Yeah, totally right. Man, well, congratulations.
Thank you.
I'm happy to hear that.
Yeah, thanks.
Is it going about as you thought it would go? Is it going better, or
it's going better?
COVID through it. You didn't see that coming, I guess.
Man, it's last year was a good year, first year. I got out of the Peter Nappi world, and we can talk about that. But I came on full time January 2nd, president and CEO of Vavia Nashville and Vavia, the franchisor.
January 2nd,
2019.
Okay.
So really, and we had started offering service in Q4 of 18, but it was a little slow burn. And then, we hit the ground running in 2019, had finished a really good year, positive EBITDA in year one. And then this year, January, which is usually kind of a slower month for it because of weather and stuff, but it was our biggest month that we'd had. February was down a little bit. Then March, the tornado hits, and we're like, okay, this is, it's horrible, but this is an opportunity here to help clean up.
Right.
And so we were busy, and then, everything shuts down. So then we're like, what's going to happen? March was about 50% higher over February, which was really good. And then April came, and it was just lights out. I mean, we were just unbelievably slammed.
Great.
It's about 40% over March.
Okay.
May kind of settled back down a little bit, and then in June is going pretty well too. But our revenue should double this year.
That's fantastic. So I didn't actually realize that this was a franchise play, which is fascinating because people could be listening to this podcast thinking, I wonder if I want to talk to Vavia about a franchise where I live, So what is the makeup, do you think, of a successful franchise owner? Someone that would want to, be under Vavia and be in the trash business. What type of person, does that make sense for? It sounds like the logistics is a big piece, so kind of understanding all of that.
Yeah, I mean, first and foremost, the waste business is capital intensive. It just is.
Okay.
Trucks are $95,000, $100,000 a piece. Yep. Containers are, just call them $3,000 a piece. I mean, it's it adds up in a hurry. So you need somebody's got to have some net worth and some liquid cash available, and probably $500,000 to $1 million in there to get really going. And then really, if you think about it, what I love about the business and what we do is that I can be outside a lot. I don't like being inside. I'm an accountant by, trade or education. So there is a piece of that has to happen, but I can be out promoting my business, talking to people, growing my business, developing the business. So to me, that's something that I enjoy of it. But the qualifications are just what you're looking for is somebody that obviously is a self-starter, that goes without saying, but just has some personality that can sell, can promote themselves, because that's what you got to do. Somebody said, if you're not selling, you're buying. Yeah. So somebody that's able to go out and do that, but also somebody can look at a balance sheet, profit and loss statement. That, you don't have to be an accountant, but just understands the goings and comings of that. But then also that somebody understands some mechanical stuff. Now, I'm definitely not a grease monkey at all. My wife doesn't think I'm very handy at all. Sometimes she says I am, but
I make sure my wife understands I'm not handy. And if there's ever a question, I make sure to mess it up so I don't get called next time.
Yes, exactly. But you need to understand that something's wrong with your truck, you know, or at least know where to go, you know, what to, you know, that you can help troubleshoot things and be able to talk to, you know, the guy at the shop, you know, somewhat intelligently, that you understand, you know, what needs to get fixed or what doesn't. So those are really kind of the keys of being able to understand trucks and equipment a little bit, you know, understand some financial aspects and being able to sell their business and have some net worth.
Yep. And they're gonna buy their trucks and dumpsters and so forth, and they're gonna own them, but they're gonna be able to use your business systems and name and all of that, and get the buying power with the landfills and all that. Yeah,
with the landfills, with the trucks, the containers. I mean, we've negotiated deals with Ford and Dodge and our container manufacturers, Iron Container. I mean, we've been so we have all of that kind of fleshed out, worked out. The other thing that we've developed is the digital strategies to grow your business. And so we have an agency out of Toronto, Canada, actually, that we work with, and they've been almost a year now. And so we've got a myriad of strategies laid out. We work with some of the biggest brokers in the country that help us to grow business, and you know, we're actually going to meet with them this month. But you know, can help us roll out when we go into different markets. So what they do is they buy up ad space. If you search Nashville dumpsters, they're going to pop up at the top.
I see.
And then they contract with you. We're a subcontractor to them. They own the customer. They pay us on a weekly basis. But it's a good deal. So a lot of and that's just one spoke in the wheel too. I mean, we've got a dozen different things that we can deploy when a franchise comes on board.
Did you use a local shop for developing the app?
No.
Someone in Nashville or no?
No, we did not. Yeah. We found somebody that had experience in the waste business.
Oh, okay.
And knew a little bit about it. And we developed it from there.
I see. Yeah. Do tell us about Peter Nappi, and then I also want to hear your family's story, which I think they're kind of interrelated. The Peter Nappi showroom in Germantown is probably the coolest room that I've been in Nashville, Tennessee. I know it's been a few years ago. So impressive, man. It was beautiful.
Thank you.
But yeah, I'd love to hear about Peter Nappi and then also your family story.
Sure. Well, the Peter Nappi, which was named after my grandfather, who a man I never met.
You never met your grandfather?
No, he passed away in the 50s.
Oh, okay. At a young age?
He was probably, he was born in 1887, so he was 67 years old. So.
Okay.
But
was he in Italy, or
he was born in Italy? But he came to Columbus, Ohio. He went to New York first.
Okay,
and then he went to Columbus, Ohio.
Okay.
So he had it was my father's father, and my mother's family was from Mississippi. She was the oldest of 5 kids. She's an incredibly strong woman. She left home when she was 16, and she made a way for herself, and then took care of her younger sisters, and she was amazing. When she ended up in Columbus, Ohio, met my father. They got married. I was the only child. When I was 10, my father passed away fairly suddenly, heart attack. And then my mother wanted to move to Mississippi. And so we moved there that summer. Well, she ended up passing away like 8 months later.
Your mother passed away 8 months after your dad?
Yeah, it was 16 months after my dad, but 8 months after we got to Mississippi. So with the brain aneurysm. So I was the only child. Living in Mississippi, place I didn't know very well at all. And then I was, my grandmother and my uncle and my grandmother lived together. It's another story. But I ended up living with them. And it was, pretty much culture shock. But
in Mississippi?
Little bitty town called Waynesboro.
Okay.
I love it. We go back there quite a bit now, and it's fun. But they lived there, and it was an interesting time. I remember the day they told me my mom died, and I was outside playing with the dogs, and I just remember this vividly, that I'm like jumping around, the dogs are chasing me around, and I just think to myself, well, I'm on my own now.
Dang.
Yeah.
Man, I can't imagine. Did you, dealing with your dad's death, you said about 16 months prior, did that Did that make it easier or worse when your mom died?
It's a good question. I was more upset when my mom died, I would say.
Because you were
Loved my
closer to
dad.
her, or?
Probably a little closer. I mean,
Okay.
I think you're always closer probably to your mom, you know. My dad traveled a lot for work. But yeah, I was definitely more emotional when she passed away.
Really?
Yeah.
Okay.
But I wouldn't say it prepared me for it.
Yeah, I don't know how you are prepared for anything like that. My dad died when I was 10 too. And still remember where I was, when someone came to tell us.
The exact
and
words.
It's like, the exact words. And it's like just kind of burned forever. It's like a timestamp.
Yeah.
It's a big deal. I can't imagine losing both parents before you're 12 years old, though. Did you not feel like you were just out in the wind? Like, did you have your grandmother and you had some family, but still, both your parents are gone. Like, where was your structure? Where was your anchor? Like, where was your? It just feels to me like you would just feel like, as particularly at 12 years old, that you're just sort of out in this big bad world all by yourself. Is that how that feels?
Yeah, I definitely felt that way. Definitely did. I was, and I was, a little probably rebellious a little bit, but I was a good kid. I mean, I made good grades, played sports and all that stuff. But, my uncle was a deacon in the Baptist church there, and my grandmother went to church there, and I think that provided me some foundation. I was raised Catholic with my parents. That's why I tell people it's kind of. If you're talking about culture shock, I grew up in an Italian neighborhood family, going to, Catholic private school. My dad played golf, remember the country club, and then, 16 months later, I'm living in rural Mississippi, going to predominantly black public school, going to a Southern Baptist church that just stopped baptizing in the creek a few years before that, and eating black-eyed peas. And I remember my grandmother first, like, get up. You gotta go out and pick peas. I was like, what? Are you crazy? I don't even know what that is. And then shelling peas. I mean, no, it was not.
That does sound like culture shock.
Yeah.
Man, I'm so sorry. I did not know you had lost both your parents at a young age.
Yeah. It's, I always had an attitude that, of gratitude, because they were amazing people, amazing parents. They loved me. They were funny. Had a lot of great experiences with them. I mean, my dad always had a smile on his face. Everybody loved him. And my mom she was a rock. She was, there's so many funny stories about her, and she was gorgeous. I mean, she was, tall and this dark complected, and she was just classy, and she had a really tough life growing up, but she put all that behind her, She still had her Southern accent, but she was amazing. So I look back and, there's people that, unfortunately, the parents are still around, and can't say that. And
yeah, well, that's true. Was your mom Italian?
No.
Or your dad?
My dad was.
Your dad, okay.
Yeah, so I'm only half. But
okay.
But my mother had some American Indian in her, so everybody thought she looked like Sophia Loren.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, so she was, Sophia Loren's still alive, which
yeah,
it's unbelievable. But that component and that attitude, but also it made me who I am.
Right.
It made me tough. It made me resilient. It made me grateful. And I don't know if I would have had all that stuff if they would have been here. And I'll be with them soon. So
yeah,
sooner, later. I hope not too soon.
Yeah, well, I think that's a great way to look at it for sure. We were just talking the other day. Someone was on here. We're talking about the suffering. It's hard to think about all the suffering that goes on in the world, and yet. He was talking specifically about musicians and how that there's some great songs that would not exist had it not been for the suffering those people went through. You talk about beauty from ashes, man, this happens all around the world all the time, every day. God is working his path of redemption, or his plan of redemption is at play right now. So that's true of your life too. So picking back up the story then of were we going with Peter Nappi there, or your family? Or maybe it was just intertwined?
I think it was a little bit intertwined.
Great.
But, so when I my grandmother went in a nursing home when I was 16, so when I was in the junior. So I was kind of on my own after that point. And so I ended up in college. I started working in a shoe store called Tom McCann. selling shoes. And there was just something about being in the stock room and looking at everything. I was like, I kind of like this business. And I remember telling relatives that one day I want to own a shoe store. And they're like, well, hopefully that's a retirement gig and, you don't need the money. But I just had this vision that it was going to be this hardwood floors and leather couches and cappuccino machine, cool music playing, blah, blah, and people just kind of hang out.
Now, hold on one second. You said junior, is this in high school or college?
College at this point, yeah.
But when did your grandmother go into the nursing
Junior
home?
in high school.
Yeah. So a junior nursing home, or junior in high school, your grandma goes to the nursing home and you're out on your own.
My uncle was still living there. So my Uncle Joe, and but he and I did not see eye to eye. We love each other now, and
sure.
And he, if it wasn't for them, I wouldn't have become a Christian probably. But so I owe them that. But we definitely butted heads big time. But yeah,
been through a lot, man.
I talk to him about once a week, and
okay.
So we have a really good relationship. And but yeah, I just had this vision of what I wanted the shoe store to look like, and then I ended up graduating from Ole Miss, got a degree in accounting. Wanted to move back to Ohio because that's what I knew. I remembered my family, and I still had a lot of my father's family was there, and that's kind of where we left off. I was there for a few years, worked in telecommunications, and moved to Atlanta and then to Nashville.
Mm-hmm.
But to skip over to Peter Nappi, then.
Sorry to interject, but
problem.
When did you meet your wife?
That's another story. So my wife Dana is I mean, she's just amazing. She really is. She is. We met in Nashville in a boxing class in 2002.
Like title boxing, or
no,
it was more advanced than that?
No, it was Lee Woods boxer size. I think he's still around. But, but it was in Berry Hill. And old Lee, he's used to get right in your face. You gonna be a chump or a champ? But we met there, and she came in one day, and she had Ohio State Buckeyes shirt on, and I'm a huge Buckeye fan. I mean, it's hard not to be. Best team in the country.
Oh man, Mace.
Well,
let's move on.
Top 5 program.
They're not going to play this year anyway.
No, probably not. I'm about done with sports anyway. But,
yeah, for sure.
But she came in with the shirt on, and we just started talking. And I saw her out one day. And funny story is that we were shadow boxing. We got paired up, and I was like, "Hey, I'm Phillip," and she's like, "I'm Dana." And she's like, "It's happy to beat you." And then she asked me out, which she denies, but I'll ask you. So I said, "Hey, what are you doing tonight?" She said, "I don't know. Do you want to go out?"
I think she did that.
I think so too.
Absolutely.
Yeah,
good work.
Yeah.
I see how you positioned it there.
Yeah, that's the sales
salesman,
skills coming through.
Yeah.
So she come to find out that I left Columbus when I was 12, and she there's one Catholic high school called Bishop Watterson, and she went to school there, and I would have went to school there, and she went to grade school with my cousins and rode the bus with them. And then my father was married before and had 3 kids, 2 boys and a girl, and the 2 boys went to this all-boys private school, Catholic school, and her father was in one of them's class and knew him.
Mm.
So it was kind of meant to be that we were, and so we met here, we dated for 2.5 years, and then we got married in 2015, so 15 years, and we have a beautiful little girl, Ellie.
Yeah,
she's 12.
Okay, congratulations.
Mm-hmm.
So you met Dana, and you said 2002, but you got married in 2015. You said
2005.
Oh, you've been married for 15 years. Got it.
Yep.
Okay. All right. So back to the vision for the shoe store. I find it fascinating that when you were working at this shoe store, you had this vision for what wound up being then Peter Nappi. Then, correct?
Exactly. Sorry. Yes, exactly. After we sold the Tennessee Waste in 2008, my wife and I had gone to Italy a few times for vacation in Sicily, and we just we loved it. Obviously, it's hard not to love, and we love shoes and all that good stuff. And when I was getting a little burned out with Tennessee Waste, and so towards the end, I started thinking about the shoe business more and more and more, and really it was more from a creative standpoint. Like I wanted to get my hands dirty. I wanted to, travel a little bit more, see some of the world, and work with my hands, and that was really kind of the beginning of it. And so when we sold the business, I had to stay on through the earn-out period and through the end of the year, and then we just talked about it. Said, do you want to just go to Italy for a few months and just kind of take some time off, think about some opportunities, what we want to do next, look at some other stuff, and maybe look at the shoe business. And so it wasn't too hard to convince her, but
I would think.
You know, so our daughter was about a year and a half, and we left at the beginning of March 2009, and we landed in Florence and put our daughter in a little Italian school, and her first words were in Italian.
Really?
Yeah. I mean, her accent right now is spot on.
Oh, wow.
And she could pick up the language so quickly. It's pretty neat because I'll say this, and she'll say it, and I'm like, that is like perfect.
Wow.
Perfect,
And she got that from spending a period of time there? Okay.
It just forms in your brain, especially when you're young like that. They don't lose it. They don't lose the pronunciations. But anyway, doors just started opening for getting in the shoe business, and met a friend of a friend owned a tannery, and then I got introduced to a family in the country that owned a small factory, Lamberto. And he had the factory from the 60s, but he started making shoes by hand for Gucci when he was 11 years old.
Whoa.
Now he had this factory, still did about 20,000 pair of those horse-bit loafers for Gucci every year. But he was willing to take us on because he believed in Peter Nappi. They took us on and started working with us. And during this time, didn't know my grandfather, didn't know anything about him, but I started researching things about him to get my dual citizenship, which I'm still working on, by the way. But I'm eligible for it. So I started researching things about him and finding how to get his birth certificate, how to get this. And so then I found his passage papers when he was traveling. He traveled 4 or 5 times between Italy and New York. And my father actually lived in Italy for a little while when he was a kid. I didn't know that because he was on the manifest. But I started looking at it, and they had to list their trade or their occupation. And Dana was in the back of our apartment doing something. I'm like looking at the papers, and I scroll down. His birth name was Pietro. It changed to Peter.
Oh, okay.
And I'm scroll down, and I go, and every one of them wrote peasant, 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 maybe a carpenter every now and then. I get to Pietro Nappi, and he writes shoemaker. Had no idea. Called Dana, hairs on the back of my neck. I was like, you got to come see this. And so we started doing more research. He and his brother were the only 2 that immigrated, Michele. And they landed in the Lower East Side of New York. They made shoes there. And then they went to Columbus, Ohio, and made shoes for decades.
And you didn't know this?
Had no idea.
Whoa.
Yeah, so we figured out, we got the story part down.
Yeah.
So it was kind of a blessing and a curse in a way. Because we couldn't turn back at that point.
Right.
But we thought we were going to launch it in New York. And we actually sold our house in Nashville. We're planning to move to New York, and it just didn't feel right. I love New York, but I don't think that's a good place for me.
Yeah.
I like to be in the South.
Yeah.
But so we ended up staying in Nashville, sold our house, ended up selling the house, and then turned around and had to buy another one. And we were going to open a store here, and we were looking around. There was a place like right around the corner from here that we were getting ready to put an offer on to lease the space. And I was talking with the broker who was helping me, and he said, let me show you this Newhoff place. They probably won't accept you, but at least you get a tour out of it, is what he said. And we talked to the owner. He's passed away now, one of the brothers, Stephen McRedmond, was an amazing guy. And he said, I told him what our business plan was and what our model was, and he said, I may have a space for you. And he walked right down the street, and he opened these 2 doors, and this place had not been inhabited in probably 40 years, and I was like, my gosh, this is it. And Dana was like, are you crazy? I was like, I can just see it. I can see it. And so we worked out a lease deal with them, and we did the renovations on it, and we started that January 2011, and we opened in June.
Of 11?
Yeah, 2011. Okay. Amazing space. That place did a lot of events. It had a lot of, I wish I could remember everybody that's performed there.
Really?
From Stevie Wonder or what's the guy named married to Nicole Kidman? I don't even remember his name.
Who is it, Mace?
Who is it?
Keith Urban. Yeah. I was like, man, I just saw this guy on a documentary, which, total sidebar, You need to watch the Garth Brooks documentary on Netflix. It is killer. Oh, my goodness.
Yeah.
It's 2 parts, part A and part B. They're an hour and a half long each. But, yeah, Keith Urban was on there. I'm like, I know what you're talking about.
Keith.
That's what it is. Thanks, Mace.
But Jason Isbell performed there when we did a thing with Bonnaroo. We were having a pre-Bonnaroo party a few times. Who's the other girl, the kind of crazy country singer, the younger, not Maren Morris, but no, she's more kind of like Americana.
Maren Morris, who I was going to say.
No,
I don't actually know.
Anyway.
I don't listen to a ton of country.
But it was we had did photo shoots with Tim McGraw and Kenny Chesney and Nicole Kidman, Taylor Swift. I mean, it was Show Nashville shot there probably 15 times.
That's right. Yes, we watched that show.
We
so
did
much.
The launch party for Rolling Stone Country there. I mean, there was the owner, the founder of it was there. I mean, we did a lot of really, really cool things. But that place really ate you alive, and it was a blessing for the brand because it got it so much attention, but it was also such a distraction.
What do you mean by that?
Well, it got you so much attention because everybody loved the store and they wanted to come to the store.
Well, I can see why. It was gorgeous.
To see the brand.
Beautiful.
And then it got us in publications of left and right, and so that was the blessing part of it. The curse part of it was it was a full-time job just managing that because people wanted to do stuff there all the time, So, I mean, people come in. I mean, every day somebody call, I want to do a photo shoot. Well, what's your budget? We don't really have a budget. Could you help us out? No, I mean, it depended on what it was. Sometimes we did, but just managing that piece of the puzzle and the building had a lot of construction, structural issues. So that we were always dealing with that. There'd be snakes in there, there's birds flying around, pooping on stuff, leaks.
Yeah.
I mean, it was a lot. And the shoe business is a lot. Sometimes we used to kid, I wish my grandfather would have been in the tie business or the sock business. Because, you start talking about these shoe boxes and doing stuff. But, it was a passion play that really something we wanted to do. And not being we launched in June of 2011 on the same day. We opened the store. We had a launch party that night and launched our website.
Oh, wow.
And, you're trying to produce a product in a foreign country. You don't have a lot of leverage because you don't have volume.
Sure.
Traveling a lot. I think I went to Italy 35 times. I mean, sometimes I'd go for, not counting the one night that you sleep on the plane, be there 2 nights and come home.
Whoa. Just needed to visit the plant?
Yeah, just something was going wrong, So we had to, if you don't have product, you just hardly make any money.
Right. Yeah.
We 2017, I got called to do a consulting gig with a waste hauling business that was in Nashville. It was in some trouble. One of the partners, the controlling partner, was in hospice with Alzheimer's, and they got rid of the minority operating partner. He was doing something right, and I never met him, but I ended up getting involved with them, helping them. We ended up selling the assets that they had to Waste Management, and then kind of sparked the relationship back up with Waste Management. They offered me a consulting contract, and I was like, man, I need to figure out how to get back in business and not compete against them.
Oh, okay.
That was the key.
Yeah.
Because they eat you alive eventually if you compete with them.
Yeah.
And so I came up with this with Vavia, and it's because Waste Management doesn't offer that line of service. They don't do 10s and 15 yarders. It's a complement to them. They were losing business to their competitors that offered the size containers that they did and the small ones. Because you think about it, like they would get a call and say, hey, I need a 10-yard container. And the Waste Management, well, we don't have it, sorry. So then they go to their competition, and that customer could be gone forever.
That's right. Yeah.
And then there were some direct competitors for us, at least in this market, that Waste Management wasn't seeing that volume at their landfill. So it was advantageous for them and for us. And so that was kind of the genesis of Vavia.
Interesting. Did you miss the trash business when you were doing Peter Nappi?
I didn't think about it as much because I was so busy consumed with Peter Nappi. But once I got that taste of it in 2017, I was like, I kind of know this business. Yeah. And I like this business. I like the customers. It's mostly B2B. So it's different. You're doing retail and dealing with the general public and over some shoes. That can get pretty infuriating.
Yeah, I believe that. Yeah. Did you have quality complaints with the shoes?
Not
or if they were going to buy
really.
them, they were just pleased with it?
Yeah, I mean, there's an issue, I mean, it could range from a shoestring broken or there's a nail sticking up. Well, they're made by hand, by humans. There's going to be some problems. But no, I'd say,
Okay.
all in all, no.
So it wasn't like, because these shoes were not cheap, right? So they were
No.
great shoes. And so you have more of a high-end buyer. So you didn't experience a sort of a unreasonableness from these high-end buyers with the quality then.
No,
Okay.
I would say no. So, every now and then there's always one of them that's going to be, that's having a really bad day and takes that on you. But it was, I think some of the things that we did wrong in that business is that, we kind of let the factories push us around a little bit because they wanted more volume. So then, I'm very, I believe I can do anything.
Right.
And so you go down that road, and then you end up with a lot of product that you got to put on sale, and then you start to just deteriorating the image of the brand.
Sure.
When people just wait till it's on sale, which I don't blame them. I buy everything on sale too. But there was just something fundamentally wrong with me in the business because it just seemed too superficial. There's people starving to death around the corner, and we're selling a $600 pair of boots. Well, they cost over $200 to make. And then you got to ship them here, and you got to pay the duty, and you got to pay the exchange rate, and all of this stuff. So, I mean, the cost was the cost, and I knew that going in. I remember telling Dana, I was like, "This is not going to work. I don't know why. This is way too expensive." And that's why, like I say, it was a passion play that got a little out of hand. It could have just been really small and niche, and the demand would have been there. We probably wouldn't have made a lot of money, but
sure,
we wouldn't have spent a lot of money either.
Right. So did it bother you personally that you were selling these shoes for $600?
Yes.
Really?
It did.
Why though? I mean, you have a great product and a great story and a great brand, and people are willing to pay the $600. It's not like they're going to give, the $600 to the kid next door who needs it, unfortunately, So it's not like in either or. I'm just kind of curious what bothered you about that.
I think just maybe some of it was that I probably wouldn't go buy a $600 pair of shoes. Why should I expect somebody else? But it was just when you see people get bent out of shape over their boots, or the $600 and the shoelace broken. And I'm just like, man, there's so many other problems in the world right now, and you're upset because of this, and then the holidays could be the worst. I mean, because then people are just more stressed and they want stuff on time and and that was the other thing for us in that business, is that when I was in the waste business and like I am now, about Thanksgiving, things started slowing down. So, people want the dumpsters out of their driveway. They got Thanksgiving, then the holidays are there, and the weather's could be a little iffy too. So you really have that time from Thanksgiving to the first of the year that things slow down. So you can catch your breath. You can get your office organized. You can get ready for the next year, start closing your year off, have your holiday party, travel, go see family. The retail was the exact opposite.
Right.
It was game on, you know, and you got to have a content calendar, and you got to have your pop-ups scheduled and planned. We didn't have a holiday, and then you think, all right, well, Christmas is here. It's over. No, it's not. Now we got after Christmas sales.
Okay.
I mean, it's just, you're back at work the next day.
Yeah.
Then you got all the exchanges and returns and no, it was hell, I tell you.
The returns and the exchanges, that seems like a piece that I even wonder today how Amazon handles that.
Yeah.
Because it just seems like them and Walmart, you can return anything at any time almost. And apparently that's just part of the apparatus with that kind of retail. You have to be able to offer it, but it seems like it would need its own system.
Yeah, I think it's probably 15 to 20% is what they kind of predict, but I think Amazon and Walmart would be higher,
Dang. Did you learn anything about celebrities in general that surprised you from all those experiences?
It was pretty funny because my wife, she wouldn't know if Elvis Presley walked in the room. She'll tell you that. She'd be like, I was like, Danny, you know who that is? No, I'm sorry, I don't know who it is. But the only person she knows is Sheryl Crow. And
oh, really?
yeah. But it's interesting. Especially being in Nashville, my gosh, you would have celebrities come in there and just expect you to give it to them. And then you'd have some that would come in there and you'd want to give it to them, and then they would say, nope, I work for my money, you work for yours, I'm paying full price. And I know who those people were, and I'm grateful for it.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's that was probably one of the more frustrating things is
Okay.
dealing with the celebrities and just the air that, I'm doing you a favor by wearing your boots.
Oh, I see. Okay. Yeah, I'm going to go ahead and wear your boots, and then that's such an honor to you, and so you need to, I see that. Yeah, that would be tough to handle.
But there was always some good ones out there, and it was interesting dealing with. We did probably the biggest thing. It was the biggest thing we ever did, and you can look it up on YouTube. But 2015, Apple approached us to shoot their holiday commercial at our store. And it was Stevie Wonder. I can't remember the other artist. Sorry. Mostly Stevie Wonder. And the guy who did, he was an Academy Award director, did Milk, if you remember, with Sean Penn. Can't remember his name either. Van Zant, I think. Is his name. But they hired him to be the director of the commercial. And they took us over for 6 days, moved everything out of the studio. Yeah, and
moved all your shoes out, all your everything.
Yeah, they kept like one little corner of it, and they piled stuff up there. But most of the stuff they put on trucks and just parked in the parking lot.
Oh my goodness! So they were really just after the space.
Yeah, and then when the final product came out, you could even tell where they were. I was just like, well, why'd they even do that?
Interesting.
Yeah.
That's still on YouTube.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
But it was a commercial.
For
Apple.
It's their 2015 Stevie Wonder.
What would you
holiday.
Google? Just 2015?
I do Stevie Wonder Apple commercial.
Apple commercial, 2015 Stevie Wonder.
Yeah.
Oh, fascinating. I'm gonna YouTube that for sure when we're done here.
Yeah, because Stevie came in, obviously for like 6 hours to do his part. That was it. I mean, everything. They had it for 6 days, and so that he actually came in the middle of the night, and they started shooting about midnight. And they stopped about 4, and they were like, "Are you going to come watch?" And I'm like, "No, I'm going to be in bed." But I should have.
Oh, you should have for sure. Why do you think they did that in the middle of the night?
I think just get him in and out.
Okay.
But I should have done it. But we were just working so hard, and it was funny because I had one of my guys there. I said, we want somebody from Phillip Nappi there, obviously all the time.
Mm-hmm.
And they weren't going to let him in. I said, "Are you serious? It's our space." So, but anyway, Stevie did like a 30-minute concert for everybody that was there afterwards.
Oh, cool.
So it was our piano. We had this baby grand that we bought for the space, and we ended up selling it about a year later. So people wanted it because Stevie Wonder played it. So
absolutely. What do you believe about overcoming adversity? Like, what's your mindset? Because it seems to me like you've overcome quite a bit of adversity in your life.
Mm-hmm.
How do you view the world? Like, it seems like you do have an optimistic view, a grit. What do you believe to be true? Like that this isn't all just going to end poorly for you, even though you've encountered so much adversity in life?
Well, I mean, right now we're obviously in a very different time. So keeping that positive outlook is even more challenging right now. Just really, I mean, our country is just I'm not going to get all political about it, but the division is real.
Oh, it's so bad.
Mm-hmm.
It's so awful. It's hard to actually see like a decent way forward because everything's so polarized.
Yeah, and that's what everything you hear from social media or on the news is just so negative, and it's just everybody just forgets about this love. We just got to love everybody and just love one another and forgive one another. And there's going to be bad people, and people are going to do. I mean, we're in a sinful world, but it's not going to be policies. It's not going to be politicians. It's not going to be leaders. It's going to be God and Jesus that's going to get us through all of this. And it's so, but that that's the other side of it. But the answer to the question, I think like they used to say about Peyton Manning, he threw a lot of interceptions. You got to have a short memory.
Yeah. Oh, okay.
You got to put it behind you and enjoy the moment and smile and laugh and enjoy your friends. And but yeah, I mean, life gets tough. I mean, it's business and I mean, family and everything, and it's got to be grateful. I think there's if you're just grateful for the opportunities that you have. And, Phillip Nappi's been tough for us. kind of move on from, because we put so much into it, financially, and we put so much time into it, but God's got a plan for everything.
Mm-hmm.
And I was we listened to this one pastor, Jensen Franklin, his Free Chapel. Check him out; he's amazing. But the sermon was Sunday was about letting God bless what is left, and that's where the blessing is, and that's where that's what we have faith and hope for.
I think speaking of that blessing, I feel like that's a more common, sentiment in the African American community. I just met a guy who lives right next door, 75-year-old black man who's had a heck of a story, just a wonderful dude. But one thing I'm hearing is like he's like intentional about blessing people throughout his day, and I feel like that's a more common kind of viewpoint in the African American community than what I don't think much about who am I going to bless today, to be honest with you. But he does, and so looking for the blessing, God can bless what's left. I actually like that way of thinking about it. The short memory thing, that's an interesting way to look at it. I'm going to definitely keep that one because that helps. If you're always trying to pick apart and inspect and evaluate everything that's ever went wrong in your life, man, then that's all you ever have time to do, really.
Got to look forward.
Yeah. Is it easy for you to move on? Do you mourn something? Do you mourn the loss of something quickly and deeply and then move on, or do you carry it with you?
I like to think I move on.
Mm-hmm.
I like to think I move on. Yeah. Yeah. It was tough. I mean, it was, there was, in the beginning of Peter Nappi, because, my wife and I 2005, we got married. 2006, we remodeled our dream house to us. At the time we were young married people, and it was a nice house. 2007, our daughter was born. 2008, we sell our business, and I remember telling her, I said, "Sweetheart, life isn't always as good."
Yeah,
and it definitely turned around pretty quickly. And but we sold that house, and we were blessed enough we were able to pay it off after we sold the business, and then we sell it, and then thinking we're going to move to New York, and then we don't move to New York, and we moved back and bought another house, and we never really felt at home there. And I'm just like, man, our house right over there, we just sold it.
Yes,
it was paid for.
Yeah.
Now we're living over here, and it's like, that was very painful for me too. And starting Peter Nappi, and I was just like, my gosh, we really screwed up here.
Yeah.
And so there was that element, but it's you still got to have a short memory.
Yeah, and I think, Christ has to be bedrock. That's a lesson that I learned in the last 18 months too, with going through significant personal loss monetarily as well. There's either a God or there's not, and he either has a plan or he doesn't, and I believe there is a God and he does have a plan. And there's a reason, you know what I mean? Like there's going to be fruit that comes out of this. Sure. Would I rather have all my money back? Would I trade it for what I learned and how we grew and everything? I don't know. I'd have to think about that. It'd be nice to have it back, but it's not coming back, And so you can learn what you can learn to move on. And there's valuable life lessons. And for me, one of them has been that. It's easy to. I love business principles and I love learning, but man, at the end of the day, when the poop really hits the fan, you just need Christ. Like you just need Christ as you need Christ as the anchor for your soul. Yeah. Without that, man, you're in the wind.
Amen. And it's good to have a good support system of friends and family. And my wife is I mentioned before, she is amazing. She's such a hard worker. She's so honest and kind and caring, and she's really, really enjoyed. We felt like our daughter Ellie is, obviously our life and our joy, and she's so amazing. This girl, my 12-year-old daughter, she started a dog walking business last year, and then she wanted to role play with us for sales calls. This was when she was 11. Now she's 12, and so part of Vavia is that we have 250 dumpsters or whatever. Well, sometimes people want to sit on them too long. Well, if you go buy more dumpsters, it's $30,000 a load. It's not an easy decision when you got maybe you got a truckload sitting out there people aren't even using. So let's go get those. And so she's actually started she said, "Oh, Papa, I want to make the calls for you." So we've been role playing. Hey, I'm Ellie Nappi. I'm Phillip Nappi's daughter. I work with Vavia. You got this job dumpster at 123 Main Street. can we come pick it up? We really need it. So I told her, we've been role playing with that. She's going to start doing that. And I told her, I'll give you $25 every time you get it up. So she's like counting her money, man. She's ready to go. But my wife is the same. She just grew up in a very hardworking family, great parents, great sisters. And she's starting a new business now, but she really enjoyed, when we closed the store, it was a big relief that she was able to spend time with Ellie and picking her up from school, which she had never done before. And just, it's a pivotal age for our daughter. It's, she's 12 and providing that foundation for her and that relationship and and sometimes the biggest thing is just being present.
Right. Oh, man, yeah.
But now my wife's been getting a little bit of itch, so she is starting a new company, and it's called Purified. And she met this lady at the dog park, and they got to be friends, and they started talking about both of their personalities and their backgrounds kind of matched up. And so they are starting to do disinfectant for hospitals, restaurants, and things of that nature. So they've got a sprayer they bought, they've got the solution is already in, and they charge per square foot, and they're starting as soon as the sprayer gets in. So she's excited about that.
Yeah. Are they making the purification ingredients themselves, or they're buying it?
They're buying it.
Okay. So their piece is they're going to come in and purify, sanitize everything with the blower.
And then the sprayer is like the special one, atomizes I don't know what it is, but like my wife's is pretty in tune with all the chemistry and biology and all those things. It's interesting. We had we have a friend in town right now, and we were going out to dinner last night, and she was telling him about the business, and it was kind of sexy in a way.
I believe it.
Because she was just like, she knew it, and when I used to hear her talk through the spiel for Peter Nappi, which she'll admit, it was clumsy. It was, but this is like, and it's like me with the waste business. I can tell you, I can talk about dumpsters all day long and how we're going to do this and do that. But it was the same thing for me. Like when we were giving our elevator pitch for Peter Nappi, me and her, it just didn't sound good. It was just, clumsy. But now that she's talking about something that she understands and she knows, and it's non-sexy, and she is sexy when she does it. So I'm excited for her.
There's that box that you need to check in your mind. Like it needs to make sense to you before I think other people can really catch on to it. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Because I've been there too, where you're trying to talk through something, you kind of know as you're saying it, you got some work to do to figure this out yourself, but you still try to sell it, obviously. But when you can like check that box, like it sounds like she has with this business, then there's a lot of value there.
Yeah, she said these are my three value propositions. I can't remember them now, but she said them very eloquently, and she sounded good.
What are your thoughts on COVID? And are you keeping up with what was going on in Italy or is going on in Italy?
Yeah, I have one of my dear friends there, and then another lady who I'm dear friends with. They both were close enough that they've actually visited us in Nashville 2 different times, and so I've stayed in touch with them. And they're opening back up. And when this thing started breaking out in January, February, when you started hearing of it hitting Italy, I knew immediately what the source was, because we would always be, that was the other thing about Peter Nappi. We would, in the holidays and then after Christmas sales, the biggest men's fashion show in the world is like it's like this January 10th, it's somewhere around there. It's like the second weekend of the new year. So you're wiped out. Anyway, then you got to pack up and you got to go to Italy and do this show, which they're not fun. But, there's so many Asians that come to these shows. I mean, China's the biggest market in the world for, us and them for, high fashion. And they're there. So you're just thinking they came because it's in Florence first. It's called Pitti Uomo. And then the shows just moved to Milan. And so the buyers are just there. And then plus, people don't know this, but a lot of the major factories in Italy they're not Italian workers. They're Chinese.
Really?
So they go home, for the holidays because, all the factories shut down the whole month of December. They go home, and then January they come back and they go to the factories. And then, bam, that's why I think that it just got hit so hard.
Oh, did that fashion show happen in 2020?
Yes. They didn't know.
At like the worst time possible.
Yes. And then Milan, they all happened.
Interesting. You have any idea how many people come in for this fashion show? Couple 100,000 or?
Yeah, couple 100,000.
Okay. Well, what's interesting about that is I've never heard that. You know what I mean? Like that's news to me. I was hearing it's There's a lot of older people in Italy and
That's
those
true.
types of
Well, it's what
things.
ended up getting to them. But, the hygiene's not really great in Italy. This, sanitation things, tight quarters, especially in those fashion shows. And then they have the after parties. People are just cramped in the spaces. So I think that's what really, was the why it got hit so hard. But, I think that it is bad. People that are elderly or have underlying health conditions, it is bad. It can be bad. The flu's bad for them as well. I think they completely overreacted in some ways, and that's. What are your thoughts?
I'm with you. I think that when we were making decisions, or when the government was making decisions in January and February, it was so new, it was so unprecedented, and it was going so quickly. And what they were hearing, or from whoever, these organizations, and what they're projecting, they're making big decisions with the information at hand. And so I don't necessarily fault the decision that was made to shut things down. I just think 2, 3, 4 weeks later, it should have been apparent this is not going to be as bad as we thought. Thank God, by the way. Yeah. Well, this is great that this is not turned out as bad as we thought it was going to be. Where I was having a hard time understanding it was end of April, early May, when it was clear this thing was not what it was initially thought it could be. And we still have everything shut down, and we're still not reopening. It's tough because, there's a lot of attention put on the loss of business with some of the fringe people that come in to destroy property and businesses that are using like the protests as a cover. Because a lot of times it's not the protesters that are doing that. There's these other people that are coming in and using the protests as a cover just to ruin this property and business. And that's getting a lot of attention. But man, there are so many businesses that the government killed. I mean, so many. I just don't even think we really have a good idea yet. And a lot of them were just great mom and pop businesses that have been around since forever, and they're not coming back. They're gone because we had to shut everything down. So, it's tough because you want to protect people. That's what we have the government for. We need to protect people. But then also we have to realize people still have rights in this country, and when we see it's not going to shake out quite as bad as we thought, thank God, once again, or not nearly as bad as we thought. I think we were a little slow to open things back up again. I think it's going to take. I just saw in the Wall Street Journal last week that they're saying the economy could take 9 or 10 years to get back to where it was in 2019, which that's a big deal, man.
Yeah, and I don't trust the numbers they put out either.
No,
I mean, there's they say it's 110,000 people, Americans, that have perished from it, but I don't believe those numbers.
Yeah,
I mean, I believe that 105 to 110 people perished, but
I agree.
Is it of or with COVID?
That's right. Well, if you had any kind of a symptom, they tagged it as a COVID death. And those symptoms are extensive. I mean, we talked about this before, but shortness of breath, for example, how are you going to die without that? You know what I mean? So, and I'm not making light of it. It's just like, man, it is hard to. It is hard to trust the data, and there's some wonky stuff when you look at global numbers too that just don't make sense. The numbers coming out of China and all of that.
Yeah, there's no way those numbers are right.
There's no way. There's no way. So with what in Italy, though, the news was not overblowing it. That was they had a bad run there.
It was bad. I mean, I think they were losing 800 or 900 people a day. It's not a big population to begin with, but they were mostly elderly. It doesn't make it any, but they were just the ones that were most acceptable to.
Yeah. Do you follow Formula One at all?
I used to.
Did you?
I loved it back probably when my wife and I were married, 05, 06, 07. We were traveling, to Italy, and we got married in 05, and I loved it. And
Formula One's big in Italy, man.
Oh, yeah. I mean, I had the Puma shoes, the red Ferrari ones.
Did you?
And I just, I would get up on Sunday mornings and watch it early because, it would be live. And it was just, I never really got into NASCAR or IndyCar. I don't really like that either. But what I liked about Formula One was, one, they raced on a different track every time.
Yeah.
the challenge of them, racing in Australia and then going to Italy and then going to
amazing.
Japan and just the logistics piece of that.
Yes.
And then the racing I loved and the cars, but then the commentators.
I agree. I totally agree.
Hilarious.
Yep, Martin Brundle and the other guys there. I mean, this is the car that Charles Leclerc drove last year, 2019. And we got into it last year. And, of course, so Ferrari, I didn't know this until I got into Formula One, but Ferrari is owned by Italy as a country.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. It's
the car manufacturer or the race team?
I think both.
Okay.
I think both. I think it's a publicly traded company, but Italy, the country, has the majority shares. And I just find it so fascinating. There's a great video. It's only 10 minutes on YouTube. You can just search for like the insane logistics of Formula One or something like that. And it shows what's involved for them to race in, one country, one weekend, an entirely different country the next weekend. I mean, the logistics into that are so insane.
Yeah, and what I like about it too is they don't race every week. So it
That's
builds
right.
up that anticipation that, all right, because they're like, 3 weeks apart? 2 weeks apart?
Well, there's more back-to-backs now.
Are they?
Yeah, but you're right. They don't race every weekend because it'd be so tough to go through the whole season racing every weekend. But they're increasingly doing some back-to-back races. But the reason I asked is going to start up in July again. I can't wait. Yeah. So all the kids are into it, or at least my boys are super into it.
Yeah, I kind of
now.
lost track of like some of the drivers and stuff. But I mean, when I was following it back then, I mean, who was the guy that won so many that got sick? Schumacher.
Yes.
He was kind of
dominated.
He was on the way out, and Alonso was real big then.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
Back then, and then that Hamilton guy was just a kid. He was just coming along.
Oh man, he's dominating. In case you didn't know, now Lewis Hamilton is just dominating.
Yeah, he's great.
But it's interesting too because you only have 20 of these drivers in the world, and it's like you have NASCAR, and then you have this huge gap, and then you have Formula 3, and then above that you have Formula 2, and then above that you have Formula 1, and there's 20 drivers in the world. I mean, it's the best of the best, and it's so innovative. We have traction control from Formula 1. We have hybrid motors, electric and gas. That's all from Formula 1. Yeah. So it's so innovative, and the races aren't that long. They cap them at, I think, 2 hours, but most races are an hour and a half. No commercials.
Yeah.
I don't get into NASCAR, but Formula 1, man, that is just it's just fascinating to me. I love it, and we're going to get it back in July again. Now,
Good. Well,
thankfully.
probably trying to watch it.
You might need to.
I know.
Yeah.
I don't know what's going to happen with football.
I don't know what's going to happen with football either. Have you been hearing anything?
No. It's I have a very good friend of mine I grew up with in Mississippi who's an anesthesiologist in Birmingham, and he went to Alabama. His brother was a walk-on quarterback there, and so his brother-in-law played for Bear Bryant, but he's pretty in tune with what's going on. He thinks it's going to be half capacity stadiums.
Okay. Do you think they would play without any people in attendance in the stadiums? I mean, that's how Formula One's starting. There's no fans.
I think they would do that before they cancel the season.
You think they would, Mace? You think they would play with no one in the seats?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, I think so. I mean, students are actually student athletes are allowed to go back within the next week or so.
Student athletes are allowed to go back
and I did
within
hear
the
that
next week?
if they go no fans, that students would be allowed.
Oh, okay. Well, I mean, heck, I don't go to more than one game a year anyway. Yeah. So for me, it doesn't make much of a difference.
Who's your team?
Oh, I'm in the NFL or college.
College.
I got into college. So first of all, college football was not really a thing in New York where I grew up. Moved down here and realized college football is a pretty big deal. So got into UT. For a couple years, and then it got too heartbreaking, bro.
Yeah.
I couldn't do it anymore. So now if Alabama's playing, I'm going to watch. But I kind of got out of college football the last 2 years because it's a Saturday thing, and I like NFL. I like to watch a game with the boys on Sunday afternoon or Sunday evening, and I love the Patriots. So kind of got back into the NFL a little bit more the last couple of weeks, or I'm sorry, last couple of years.
Yeah.
I know you got to run, but man, thanks so much for stopping by. I really enjoyed this so much.
Yeah, thank you for having me.
Yeah, man, anytime. And I am curious. We do have a fair bit of small business owners that listen to this. What would be maybe something you'd want to leave with them? Parting words of advice, or any thoughts you want to leave with our audience before you go?
Keep it simple, stay focused, and don't go in debt.
I like it. I like it. Well, Phillip Nappi, thanks so much for being on, man. Really appreciate it.
Thank you.